Alright, so welcome to my garage. This is my VLX600. I'm just going to jump straight into it. Recently installed these scootmod 6-inch forward controls, and I figured I'd do a little bit of an overview, just a quick show and tell of how I installed them, how they go together, and some of the stuff that I ran into along the way. They do come with instructions, but they are written and they can be a bit hard to follow at times, and some stuff can be a bit confusing. So I hope that by providing this video and just showing it up close, showing everything, and just giving you a good overview of the stuff that I ran into, it might help some people install these and make the right choice in general, because there is a difference between the 4-inch and the 6-inch. So I hope everything by the end of the video should be clear and you should be able to install some of these by yourself. So I'm like 6'3", length and inseam is pretty standard. The stock controls were just a little bit too tight and cramped. I did like the mid controls and the feel, but it was just a little too cramped. But I just really love the VLX 600 or VT600. So I'll just show you really quick when I sit on it with the current forward controls. I still do want to change the bars because they are a bit on the low side, but this video is mainly for the actual extended, forward controls. So with the forward controls, my legs are in a pretty comfortable, very slight bend. Well, slight bend, that's a pretty significant bend, but especially compared to stock, which are right about here. This was sitting with my knee slightly above my hip and down, so this was giving backwards pressure and hurting my lower back and my upper leg. So now I have this forward. It's easy to break, it sits pretty comfortable, and well, with this height, if you are around this height and you were thinking of getting a set like this, this is about what that looks like. So I would recommend it personally, but it's really up to the person because it does make the riding feel a lot different versus mid controls. So that is a personal preference type of thing. Okay, so as I mentioned, the set does come with instructions. It's mostly just a written guide because they don't really have any official instructions. So it is a bit of a guide guiding you through the whole process. There are some confusing things in here where I ran into some issues, so that's why I'm making this video. One of the main things you can see, I've got some bolts left over here, which are the metric bolts that mount the original foot pegs, or like the original foot peg plates that are over here. It states in the manual that you can reuse these, but I found that for the brake side, these were too long and these were just not long enough. So the kit does come with the right size bolts, the Imperial ones, which, the nuts that come with that, the lock nuts, also don't fit these because it's metric. So I'm not sure why it tells me to reuse them. So I ended up not reusing them because you don't have to. But it does come with some form of instruction. So you don't entirely need this video, but it might be helpful. Alright, let's start with the brake side. This is probably the more complicated of the two, especially this brake rod, and I will get into that shortly, because that is where I had most of my struggles. But I'm going to give you a quick look at how things are assembled. These are two metric cap sockets with the washers. You've got this big back plate that slides over this pin right here and secures down here. Then you've got this smaller plate that bolts on top, screws in here, and then it squashes together with a washer and lock nut. These are the Imperial bolts that it comes with. Same for the bottom. In my case, there's a washer, another washer, then in the back another washer, and let me see if I can get you to it, another lock nut. And this is in metric 14 mil, and God, I forgot what the size for this is, but I'll just list it on screen. One of the things that you'll have to do once you install this thing is adjust the brake pedal position and free play. I didn't quite understand how to do that until I looked into it a little bit closer. So in case you don't know, there is a little nut and bolt right here. I ended up installing a slightly longer bolt because it wasn't getting me in the position that I needed it to. But quite simply, you undo, it's hard to point to the camera, you undo this nut, just a little 10mm spanner. You undo this nut, then you can adjust this one, which is basically just an end stop for how far this pedal can move upwards. So you just set that, lock the nut back in place, that's your positioning set. And then you will probably have either too much or too little movement on the pedal, like free play. So we move back, and all you have to do is adjust this. This you can turn, it helps if you push this down a bit. You can turn this, and so long as it's locked in place again, because it's like a little half moon, you'll be good. And you can adjust this until the brake has the right amount of travel for you. Do not over tighten it because you will be rubbing, like the brakes will be rubbing the whole time if you do. So don't set it too tight, but also make sure it's comfortable for you. Too much of play, so long as you can actuate the brakes fully, is not a problem, but too little can be a problem. All right, now let's get to the most difficult part of this whole process. I've laid down on the floor for you. I'm very sexy down here. So this is your new replacement brake rod. And the more difficult one is this, but in the back. This is a little nut that a 10mm spanner fits onto. It's just there's not a lot of space, and in the back it's the other way around. So this is fit from the other side, and it's facing the threads towards you. It's opposite on this side originally, so I kept it that way. So I'll show you now, like I'll switch the camera to the view in the back, what it looks like and how it's supposed to be, and give you some pointers and tips and tricks to make your life just that little bit easier. It's still really hard, but it is doable. All right, welcome under the motorcycle. So this is the back of the brake rod, and you can see here that's your little nut with your little pin that you slide through and bend over. Make sure to replace them with a new one, because this prevents it from backing out, and you do not want this to back out. Also, do not over tighten it because that will squish it together and lock up your brake system. But as you can see, the back of this sits about a finger's width away from the frame. It's a bit hard to see. You can see I mangled the paint here a little bit because it is very difficult. But there's a little bit of a cutout here that it fits through. You have to put the brake all the way back and then push it out as far as it'll go and angle it and pull it out. And to put it back in, you have to get the lever all the way back and push the pin. You can see the little cutout here. Push the pin in at an angle and then really get it in, and that's the hardest part. What I found is that the powder coating on this part was preventing the bolt from going in, period, as it threw off the dimensions of the hole just a little bit. So pushing an 8mm drill bit through, like drilling it out real quick just to get that excess like powder coat, what I presume it is, off, that helped a lot. And a little rubber plastic hammer to tap it into the back. I'll show you up top a little bit of a method to make this a little bit easier, because if you don't, there's a spring up here to pull it back, and if you do not loosen that spring, you're basically fighting the spring pressure from here, and that's just not ideal. But as you can see, when I push the pedal, that moves back. It can go way further back than this, but this is just where my brake actuation sits. So yeah, let me show you the spring. All right, welcome up top on the motorcycle again. If you look through the side, there is a spring right down there. I'm not talking about that small spring. I'm talking about that big spring underneath. That's the main spring that when I press the brake pedal, you can see it gets extended. That pulls your brake back to its stopping position, like to, its neutral position, so to speak. But that's also making your life a lot harder. What I personally do is through the back here with a spring puller tool, I'll show you those in a second. You can get through here and pull that spring out, like pull it back and loosen it for a second. Same with the small spring here, but that's just your brake stop. You can just pull this back and pull it down. That's pretty intuitive. I'm pretty sure you can figure that one out. So yeah, let me quickly grab the spring puller and show you. I'm not going to remove it fully because it does take like a bit of fiddling to get it back in, but just to show you what it looks like. All right, so this is a spring puller. And so like I said, what I did is just introduce the spring puller through the back of the frame here and hook it into the little end right there. You basically hook it in like there. You hook it in and pull it back, and that will basically dislodge the spring, and that's also how you put it back. It can help to use two hands by pulling back the spring as is and then using a long screwdriver to push it down through the hole. And then it should just click into place. That might take some fiddling, but it is pretty doable. And will make your life a hell of a lot easier, because otherwise you're putting pressure on the bar and trying to get the bolt through. And that is surprisingly difficult. So do yourself a favor, get yourself a spring puller and remove that spring. Just from one end, just loosen it, because it'll save you a lot of time and headaches. All right, so we arrived at the shifter side, which is by far the easiest side to work on. Probably the hardest part is getting the shifter linkages, I'll show you in a second, to get that all lined up and getting it shifting nicely. Get this into a nice position and make sure everything actuates as it should and is nice and tight. As you can see, it's just the singular plate with the two metric bolts. Attach this on top, lock nut, washers, just your usual, same as the other side. Let me see if I can get you in here. So in the kit, you'll receive this like offset shifting linkage, just so it's out of the way. I basically put it fully into this little knuckle here that can move and tighten this nut up. Then, probably the most difficult part, I'm trying to get in here, but I'm wearing my helmet for the microphone. You get this coupling nut. I basically do it up onto this one just a little bit, just far enough, because you'll be backing it off, and by backing it off, you're actually installing it onto this. So find roughly where you want your pedal to be, like your shifter lever linkage, where you want it to be. Back it up about halfway further up to this one, and then just touch them together and back this one off. Make sure there's enough thread from both ends into this thing. With that, you can play a bit with the distance, so that's what that's for. Once everything seems good, you tighten up the nut on this side. You hold this one with a spanner, and then tighten this one against it and tighten the other one against it. And that's it, that's installed. I put everything on just oomph tight. It's hard to explain, that just comes with experience. In the moped scene, we also call it moped tight, where basically you just grab your wrench, 2 fingers behind the head of the wrench, and just give it a nice crank. That should hold. If it doesn't, you can look up torque specs. I didn't. That's not advice. I wouldn't recommend that. That's just a piece of experience. It's something I choose to do. You should do your own due diligence and tighten them with a torque wrench if that's what you're about. But yeah, I think that's it. That's them installed. All right. So I hope this helped. I hope this gave a little bit of insight on how to install and what to expect. I know the instructions that it comes with from scootmods are not ideal, especially if you're less technically inclined, and some of the steps just do take a little bit of like finagling and just a little bit of time and effort. But I hope by showing you this on video, how it's assembled and some tips and tricks, that you do manage to install them a bit easier. So yeah, if you do have any questions, do leave them down below. I'll try to do my best to answer them as much as I can. Again, I would highly recommend these if you are looking into them. These are the 6 inches, pretty sure I already mentioned, but just in case, these are the 6-inch ones. I think I could have gotten away with 4 inches. I think 6 inches is a bit much, but they are comfortable, and with my 6'3" and standard 34-inch inseam, they are fine. They are pretty good. They feel good. They're very comfortable, but I think I could have gotten away with the 4 inches as well. So if you're looking in the 2 and you are worried that the 6 inches are a bit too long, I think it's a safe bet to get the 4 inches, because that might just work out better for you. But yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed.